Whoa! RTX 2060 with DXR and now DLSS in Battlefield 5. Let's find out how that performs. Alright, so Battlefield 5 not that long ago released a patch that enabled DLSS in its game. And the thing that DLSS does, just to break it down for you guys, make it as simple as possible because I don't want to make this too long-winded, is that DLSS will render the game. I'm not sure if it's rendering the entire game, but it's at least rendering parts of it somehow. At a lower resolution, and then using its DLSS, deep learning super sampling, to then make that look sharpened. So essentially the graphical load on the GPU is less, thus you can get more FPS with DLSS. However, in Battlefield 5, hopefully this is something that they're going to work on, there is a bit of a side effect, so we're going to get into that right now. All that being said, ultimately, you're supposed to get better performance when you have DLSS. It utilizes I believe the RT cores in the RTX cards, so it's definitely something that it's giving you more functionality for your money with an RTX card than you would with other games, for example. And while it's safe to assume that its performance on the RTX 2070 or the 2080 or the 2080 Ti is probably just fine, the RTX 2060, you know, it's a 1080p card with DXR, but it's a 1440p card in my opinion in traditional games. So 1080p DXR on medium as usual, like the last RTX video that we did. If you guys want to see that, it'll be linked right up here. And now DLSS. So let's go over the raw FPS numbers. They did surprise me at first, but then some other stuff happened. So we'll get into that right now. Let's get into the raw FPS numbers. So with 1080p at the high preset in the game, and then with DXR to medium, as well as DLSS to on, and I believe the FX one was turned to medium as well, we got an average FPS of 85, a 1% low of 43.6, and a 0.1% low of 14.4. That all sounds just fine and dandy, right? Well, turning off DXR and DLSS and then keeping everything else the same, we have an average FPS of 71.5, a 1% low of 52.2, and a 0.1% low of 35.5. So that is to say that without DXR and without DX12, any of that stuff enabled, when you don't have all that running, the game runs smoother. And if you do have that stuff enabled, you actually get a higher FPS. So it's a really weird conundrum because with DXR and DLSS turned on, the average FPS was higher. Now, why this eventually ended up not surprising me was because the DLSS, its job is to make your GPU perform better, and that means more FPS. So I get it. I get it why it's like that now, but unfortunately, at least in Battlefield 5's implementation of DX12 or DXR, DLSS, however they're doing it, the 1% and 0.1% lows suffered. It wasn't as smooth. It was still decently smooth, but it wasn't as smooth as running the game without that stuff. So that is definitely something to consider. Okay, so no DLSS. 71.5 average. It has a incredibly, like, I guess about double higher on the 0.1% low, so that was definitely nice. And it is a bit higher on the 1% low, about 10 FPS higher, right around there. So it is a much more enjoyable experience when it comes to no DLSS and no DXR, but you want to turn up the eye candy, you want those features running on your RTX 2060, right? So you're thinking you're going to turn on DXR and you're going to turn on DLSS, and this is where you run into another problem. So I'm not exactly sure if this is how DLSS is supposed to look. We have yet to see because that needs to be implemented in more games. Theoretically, it sounds great. In practice, at least now with Battlefield 5, not so much. The reason I say that is because with DXR and DLSS specifically enabled, the game looks kind of blurrier. So hearing about how it works in terms of running the game at a lower resolution and using the super sampling to bring it back up, it sort of makes sense that it does have a blurrier look to it. You do get used to it and then you end up not noticing it, but then when you switch back to the standard game mode, it's night and day. I hate to be nitpicky with something like this, but I play on a high refresh rate monitor. I want to be able to see everything clearly. I have a good system, and DXR is just a no-go for me, rather DLSS in this case. So DLSS turn on. So DLSS turned on is not something I would recommend unless you're just after raw FPS, and then in that case, sure. But then you might as well just be running it on regular. And well, you want to make sure that feature frame rendering is turned on. I ran all these with feature frame rendering turned off because of what it could introduce, but for the most part, feature frame rendering will help out your FPS. So make sure you guys play with that setting to get the max performance out of Battlefield 5. So DLSS right now, I can't say I'm the happiest with it. Hopefully NVIDIA works on this some more, or maybe it's not necessarily their fault and it's game developers. But with only one real major game to have that right now, hard to say. I know Metro, I believe Exodus just came out, and so we've got yet to test that. You guys will see some upcoming content on that pretty soon. But Battlefield 5, RTX 2060, don't turn DLSS on. You might as well just run it. If you want that stuff, you know, DXR medium is just fine, but run it without that stuff and you'll be good too. It'll be nice and sharp. And ultimately you can have all the graphical fidelity that you want, but sharpness is where you really perceive that it looks so much better, and DLSS just takes the sharpness away, which is really sad because it is such a promising sounding technology. And well, hopefully I guess we get to see some improvement on that coming in the future. Anyways, I want to hear from you guys what you think about DLSS. There's plenty of more content on what DLSS is doing to Battlefield 5 and this sort of blurry-ish stuff that it does. I want to hear you guys' thoughts on that. Sound off in the comments below. And if you have Battlefield 5, is it a game that you guys are enjoying? Are you looking forward to all this RTX features stuff? I'm going to think no, based on sales figures and general response to that sort of stuff. But I want to hear from everybody watching this, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. We always got more coming. Drop a comment down below. Follow us on our socials. Everything listed down below. Join our Discord. We're on Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. Make sure you check out our related videos right over here. We'll see you all in the next one. I'm Chris, Coalition Gaming. Bye.